take it from a state like California, a pinnacle of an illusion of a progressive utopia with its kale smoothies and avocado toast, and it seems like a wonderful, diverse nation. It seems so wonderful and translucent over there. At the same time, also being authoritarian hellscape, which we're seeing constantly on the daily basis. And it's going further down that rabbit hole because of governors like Gavin Newsom, for example. Gavin Newsom, who's basically the equivalent of a used car salesman. And he wants to run for president one day, so of course he has to go further down this corporate fascism, authoritarian drive in order to make his way to the top. Which is why he's introducing this, and this is outright hysterical. And reported by The Hill. Newsom signs controversial social media bill into California law. Well, what's controversial about it? Well, it says California Governor Gavin Newsom has signed into law a social media transparency bill measure that he says protects residents from hate and disinformation posts. And I want to know, honest to God, who in their right mind is demanding something like this? Who in their right mind needs to feel protected from words and phrases? Out of all things that we should be protecting ourselves from, I don't know, a nuclear atrocity, famine, food insecurity, not being able to pay for standards of living. Like, out of all the things, we need to protect ourselves from mean words and phrases that are said on the internet. Like, who in their right mind needs that protection? It's not any one of us. I'll tell you that. It's not any one of us. It's one of them. That's why they're introducing this. It's to protect them from people on social media critiquing them. That's why sites like YouTube, for example, got rid of the dislike button. It's not to protect other creators. It's not there to protect the viewers of YouTube. It's there because the White House and other media correspondents have YouTube channels, and they don't like the backlash. And because YouTube is a corporate giant with Google, they're going to side with the corporate giants. Has signed a bill into law, media transparency measure that says protects residents from hate and disinformation posts spread through social media platforms. Whew. Thank God for the state of California for educating us, because we're just so dumb and stupid. We'll just read anything and maybe fall into the trap. Oh God. Take it from the people that spread the most hatred and disinformation to tell us about hatred and disinformation. Oh. And again, no regular person is asking for something like this. And if they are, they're pretty much brainwashed and manipulated into the agenda of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party and the whole entire establishment for something like this. So AB 587, that's Assembly Bill A587, will require social media companies to publicly post their policies regarding hate speech, disinformation, harassment, and extremism on their platforms and report data on their enforcement of the policies. Do you see how it's the ruling class doing this to protect themselves? Because they're demanding transparency from people like us. But if we want transparency from the government, if we want transparency from corrupted organizations, corporations, if we want, transparency on the CIA, transparency of the FBI, transparency of the war machine, transparency of where our tax dollars are going to, we're considered extremists. We're considered unpatriotic. We're considered un-American. If we go the other direction. But they want transparency of us. They want to make sure that we're into line. Not them. The newly signed legislation will also require platforms to file semi-annual reports to the state's Attorney General's office that will disclose their policies on hate speech, extremism, and disinformation. The state's Attorney General's office will also require to make all terms of services reports submitted pursuant to those provisions available to the public in a searchable repository on its official internet website. The bill was first introduced by State Representative Jesse Gabriel and was co-authored by a group of state representatives, including Buffy Hicks, yada, yada, yada. Basically all Democrats and one Republican. But this is what Newsom had to say, and this is what's hysterical about this. California will not stand by as social media is weaponized to spread hate and disinformation that threaten our communities and fundamental values as a country. Yes, how dare people's words and phrases and ideas tarnish the good-hearted American spirit of war crimes and imperialism and colonialism and lying and manipulating to the general public so they can get away with all their crimes of the top order. How dare we tarnish the good, honest, fundamental values of Canada? Or sorry, of California. How dare we? How dare we? Newsom said in a statement, Californians deserve to know how these platforms are impacting our public discourse. And these actions bring much needed transparency and accountability to those policies that shape the social media content we consume every day. Now, I agree that we should maybe have a little more transparency with, these big tech platforms because they're run and co-opted by the governments and big corporations. I mean, you look at YouTube, you look at Facebook, you look at Twitter, you look at Instagram, you look at all the major platforms. Yes, they're operating controlled by, ex-intelligence officials. We learned about how ex-CIA officials are running Facebook, how the FBI is in control of Twitter. We know about how, Saudi Arabia government's involved with Twitter, how the Israeli government's involved with Facebook. So yes, having that transparency, absolutely 100%, that's what the public deserves. But this is just ridiculous. This is criminals going after other criminals to protect themselves and diminish against the ordinary public. Like, it's ridiculous within itself. Social media has created incredible opportunities, but also real and proximate threats to our kids, to vulnerable communities, and to American democracy as we know it. As opposed to the state of California, as opposed to the governments, as opposed to any corporation that has exploited people. We're the good, honest, faith ones. It's these social media platforms that are just allowing anyone to be social. God forbid we actually talk to one another and communicate and actually evolve through conversations. I mean, God forbid. Just think how much society would grow if everything was hush-hush and silent and we told people to shut up. Imagine a world where we just had full censorship. Humanity would just be crap. Let's just say that. It would be crap. Gabriel said in a statement, this new law will finally pull back the curtain and require tech companies to provide meaningful transparency into how they are shaping our public discourse, as well as the role of social media in promoting hate speech, disinformation, conspiracy theories, and other dangerous content. I don't know. What's more dangerous? Bobby down the street saying random shit on Twitter, or the fact that Joe Biden is doing illegal war crimes that are killing innocent children by the millions. I don't know. What's more dangerous to someone like you? Because I was always told actions speak louder than words. And considering that the governments have actually killed people compared to people just posting random shit and people just read it and they kind of brush it off, what do you think is more dangerous in that situation? I'm grateful to Governor Newsom for signing this bill and his leadership in protecting kids and vulnerable communities online. Yes, I'm grateful that the fact that no one asked for this to happen, but it happened anyway to protect them. Because Gavin Newsom knows he's in a lot of shit. Gavin Newsom knows he's being criticized online by Californians. He knows that he's getting a lot of heat for COVID, for the response of COVID, for all the lockdowns, for the mandates, for the corruption of California, for the things that it's happening. Los Angeles and their homeless communities, San Francisco and the crimes. He's getting a lot of heat right now, and if he wants to run for president one day, he's going to try and shield himself from the public spotlight. He's going to shield himself from all that criticism. So, of course, he's going to have this bill out and open, and other politicians are going to sign in because maybe when Gavin Newsom, if he becomes president, they'll want a job with him. I'm sure those other representatives want to work with Gavin Newsom so they can also be career climbers and not actually give a shit about, fundamentals, freedom of speech. So that's the apparent controversial social media bill that California, what looks like a progressive utopian society with all this love and diversity and everyone's so cutesy-footsy around each other, is really just an authoritarian hellscape because it's ruled by democratic authoritarian nightmares. And just like in red states and blue states and all the federal governments, it is co-opted with corporations, it's co-opted with social media to demonize and oppress over ordinary citizens. And that's what they're doing here. It's not to protect ordinary people from hate speech. Because I think the regular person, the regular Joe and Jane, is able to look at something online and either brush it off or say, oh, that's kind of ridiculous. Or maybe add to the conversation. Because they're probably much like me, where they understand that freedom of speech is freedom of speech. It should be a principled stance across the board. Just because you hate what someone has to say doesn't mean they have less rights than you do. You may disagree with their opinions. You may disagree with something someone says, but why are they less? Why do they have less rights than someone like you? That doesn't make any sense. And one of the great fundamentals of civilization and the way we evolve as human beings is through conversation, is through different ideas and opinions. We grow from that. We evolve. We have debates. We have discussions. We have decorum. Where's all this now? Where's all this now? It's gone down the toilet to protect authoritarian governments from being authoritarian governments. That's what's happening. It's protecting themselves. It's not to do with us. And California, going down that rabbit hole.